Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Life in Progress, a therapy podcast with Navart Wilborn. This is episode 13, so let's get into it. Okay, so this episode is another somewhat unplanned one. So I usually take some time, prepare what I want to talk about, get organized, but this week is not really one of those super organized episodes. So if you're watching this, then you're going to see a very different setting. I'm actually sitting on a bed with pillows behind me, not the usual environment. So let me tell you why. So I'm actually out of town. And before leaving home, I had great intentions last week to prep an episode for this week, but my work week was super busy, and then my weekend was spent preparing for this trip. So I'm in the middle of nowhere in the hill country near San Antonio, Texas, which is about 5 hours drive from where my family lives. So let me tell you why I'm here. And I have to tell you, you might hear some background noise. You might hear people or dogs or I don't know what. So just a warning to you. So it's spring break for my son. And I'm at the point now in my professional life where, with the exception of the long summer break, if our son Tristan's not in school, then I'm not at work. I try to spend as much time as I possibly can with him when he's out of school. So I'm off for the week with him. So we're here because my mother in law lives here. And if you know me, then you know that she's like a second mom to me. We're very close. And she's moving this week. So my son, Tristan, and I came down here to help her move. So our days have been really busy, tired, we're dirty. And so I'm just finished up a day of moving, and this is the only quiet spot I could find. So this is why I'm here. So last night I was thinking, I haven't made an episode yet. I need to work on the episode for this week. And I had a topic in mind for this week, one that I wanted to do, but I wanted to spend time working on it and preparing it, and that clearly wasn't going to happen this week. So I was trying to think about what I wanted to talk about and just kind of make something up on the fly. And while I was thinking, I was tired after a long day of moving and cleaning, and I thought, I don't feel like recording an episode this week. In fact, I don't really feel like doing anything. I didn't even have the energy to get myself ready for bed last night. I just wanted to go to sleep. But my son and I still needed to get ready for bed. That meant, showering, brushing teeth, taking the dog out. Yeah, we actually brought one of our dogs. We have 3 dogs. We brought Dobby. And if you know Dobby, then you know he is the most spoiled little dachshund in the world. He is the dog that actually goes to work with me every day. He's a therapy dog, and so he thinks he's the most important prince in the world. So naturally, he got picked to come on this trip, and the other 2 dogs had to stay home. So anyway, here I was, exhausted and completely unmotivated, but things needed to get done. So guess what? This week's topic hit me while I was actively trying to avoid doing what I needed to do last night. How to get motivated when you just don't want to do anything. And I realized how many people struggle with this. Some people struggle with it because they're tired. Some people struggle because they're lazy. And some people struggle because they have mental health reasons that interfere with their ability to do simple tasks. I wonder which category you might fit into, if any at all. So while I was thinking about this last night, that song by Jordan Sparks called One Step at a Time came into my mind, because it's just like that. It literally takes one step at a time to do the things that we have to do, the things we dread, the things we don't want to do, the things we don't have energy for. My son and I were, last night sitting on the couch, relaxing. Each of us had our Nintendo Switch in our hands. We were playing Animal Crossing together, and yes, I play the Switch, and I have my own, don't judge me. But he was on my island. We were having a great, relaxing time, but it was time to get ready for bed. Neither of us wanted to get up. knowing that we had the awful task of showering and getting ready for bed ahead of us. It just, ugh, we didn't want to do it. But we had no choice. And, the hardest part of it all was that first step of getting off the couch. Once we managed to roll ourselves off, we just went down the list of everything that needed to get done. Once one thing was done, we went on to the next. And before we knew it, we were done. We were in bed and finally able to wind down for the night. You're probably asking yourself why I'm telling you about getting ready for bed, because that is pretty much how most things in life go. I know it sounds weird, but just hear me out. Things seem so big when we have no energy or no motivation. Just think of your day. When your alarm goes off in the morning, you don't want to get up, but you have to. So you just have to take that first step. The hardest part is getting up, and then you just roll into the first task, and that turns into the next task, and you keep going, and before you know it, you're ready to walk out the door and go to work or school or wherever. When you have a big project at work or a school assignment, it seems so intimidating, and you might even put it off and procrastinate. But then eventually you have to just sit down and start. Starting is the hardest part. Until you sit down, look at the instructions, or reread the instructions or the task, then it's just this big thing that you have to do, and you don't want to do it. Once you start working on it, then you just go through the steps and you get it done. It might be something that you finish quickly, or it might take you a really long time, but either way, the first step is usually the hardest. Another example is if you have to do a lot of laundry or some kind of cleaning in your home. I have this conversation actually with a lot of clients, by the way. When there is an area of your home that needs to be organized and cleaned, you just don't know where to start sometimes. And this can feel so overwhelming to a lot of people. But you know what? You cannot tackle it all at once. You have to pick one thing to do, whether it's picking up the clothes off the floor, picking up trash, washing the dishes, making the bed, whatever. Just pick one task or one area of the room, and then once it's finished, move on to the next. We get overwhelmed when we look at things as a big picture. It's just something that most people do. When we think of a task that we have to do that we don't want to do or don't feel like we can do, we see the big picture of it and cannot imagine how we're going to get it done. But what we have to do is zoom in on that picture. Let's say I give you this maybe a beautiful picture of a landscape, mountains, a river, trees, and I ask you to find the squirrel that's sitting on the rock next to the big oak tree. Well, that would be really, really hard. It's a really big picture. But if you had the ability to zoom in and look at the picture in more depth, and if I told you to specifically look at the bottom right side of the picture, then you probably have an easier time finding it. So all it takes is breaking down the task and taking it one step at a time. My mother-in-law and I have both been experiencing some version of this week. This was a somewhat sudden move for her, and her current house wasn't really ready, and neither was the house she was moving into. It wasn't ready to, we had to pack stuff up here, and then we had to get the house ready she was moving into. So when I got here and we started working, initially I felt really overwhelmed. I was only going to be here for like 5 or 6 days, and we somehow needed to get everything done in that time. There was so much to do. It was daunting. It was really intimidating. We could have just stood there and started crying together, which we kind of wanted to do. But we just, the other option was that we could start working. And that's what we did. We just started breaking it down, and we picked a place to start, and we just got to it. We started organizing things, cleaning things, and slowly but surely, we started making progress. It wasn't perfect, and I'm sure there were other ways to do it better, but we just started somewhere and kept going until that room was finished. Then we moved on to the next room. And all along the way, there were moments of overwhelm and frustration, but we just kept going. And before we knew it, entire rooms were finished and we were seeing progress that we didn't expect to see. And we started feeling really good about it and proud of ourselves. We're still working on it and we still have a lot to do and we're exhausted and just don't really want to be doing it. Neither of us wanted to be doing what we had to do, but it needed to get done. It's not easy, it's not fun, but it has to get done. So now think of your life, think of your day. Every one of us has responsibilities. We all have things that we have to do every day that we don't feel like doing. Some of them are daily tasks like getting ready, showering, makeup, laundry, dishes, cleaning, commuting to work, doing homework, helping your kids with homework, arguing with your kids about the routine at night or whatever, and the list goes on. But then some tasks are maybe more painful and less routine, like having a hard conversation with a family member or a friend, or advocating for your kid who may be getting bullied at school, or maybe a kid who needs special services at school and isn't getting them, or maybe taking care of a sick family member, or maybe planning the funeral of a loved one, having to look for a job maybe because you don't have one. So many things can be on this list. And hopefully, while you're listening, you're thinking through some things that you have to do that are hard for you. But you know what? Avoiding them is not an option. It shouldn't be an option. These are all things that you have to do today or this week. And the longer you put them off, the worse it's going to get. Because without a doubt, you'll think about the thing that you're supposed to be doing and the fact that you haven't gotten it done. And you're going to get that punch in the gut feeling of guilt that it's not done, or the dread that you still need to do this awful thing, and it gives you an awful feeling. And usually that feeling ends up being much worse than the agony of just pushing through, taking one step at a time, and just getting it done. I mentioned earlier that some people struggle to do these things because of mental health. A lot of people with depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues struggle with motivation. So it may appear like you're lazy and just not wanting to do things, when in fact, it could be a symptom of a more serious mental health issue. As usual, this is not an excuse or a justification for not doing things, but it could be an explanation. If you think that your lack of motivation or energy seems heavier and more serious than what you observe other people to go through, then I would get that checked out. You may want to go ahead and talk to your therapist or establish a relationship with a therapist if you don't already have one, and see if maybe your struggles have a more serious reason for them. The solution is often the same as someone who doesn't struggle with mental health. It's about finding strategies to counteract this. Yes, in some cases, medication is necessary if the mental health issues are more severe, but as far as coping skills, it's about finding strategies that work. It's still about zooming in and making life more manageable. It's about breaking things down into smaller and more manageable chunks. Instead of taking things as big, overwhelming tasks, it's about making them smaller and more doable. Life is busy, it's fast paced, and it's very full. So it's normal to feel overwhelmed by it and to feel intimidated by the never ending cycle of things that have to get done. But it's all manageable. Even the worst things that we could ever experience, like illness and death, are all manageable because we don't have a choice. We have to get through these things whether we want to or not. So we can either avoid them and let the issues get bigger and build up, or we can just take them one step at a time. Those steps will look different for each person depending on what the situation is. So you may not know how to take these steps alone. As, maybe ask a trusted friend or family member what maybe you should do. Maybe they have advice for you. Talk to a professional. journal, read about it, listen to podcasts about it. There's so much information out there for every struggle that you may be going through. It may not be perfect solutions for everything, but there will be something that will help you. Don't avoid it. Don't put it off. And don't hope that it's going to go away, because it won't. Just do it. Take the first step. Do the things that need to get done, and the burdens in your life will start to lighten. You'll feel less overwhelmed and more free once you start to get these things done. The thing you struggle with, if the things you struggle with are daily issues and daily routine type things, change your mindset. Dreading them and being miserable about them won't make them go away. Just remind yourself that you have to push through this little bit right now, and once it's done, you'll feel better and you can move on to the next thing. Now, if everything in your life feels like a burden and everything exhausts you and you dread doing it and you don't have energy for anything, that might be a sign that you're struggling with a more serious mental health issue. It could be depression or something similar to it. It shouldn't be that hard to get through your day. So if you think that's you, then I really hope that you consider talking to a therapist about it. You shouldn't have to struggle that much to get through your day. All right, I need to get back to packing and cleaning, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Thanks for being with me today, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye.